Good evening and welcome to the Swell Happy Hour. Yes, today's show is a little special because we have it as a pre-recorded version, especially for you. Today's topic is all about libido, so I'm glad you're here to join us and welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, I will be sharing the screen and we will start our show immediately. All right. Yes. So tonight's show, the Swell, S.W.E.L.L. Happy Hour, the art of communication. It's all about libido. Yeah, the libido went bye-bye. Our segment tonight is brought in part with Marcella Lyles. I will introduce her in a few minutes, and it's entitled How to Get in Touch with Your Mojo. Marcella is known for her hunger project. I mean, the hunger touch project. We'll go through that in a minute. So the Swell Happy Hour, Happy Half, and you know, I'm changing the name of this show because our topics tend to be so juicy that half an hour just does not seem to do it any justice. So I'm going to change it from the Swell Happy Half to the Swell Happy Hour because that's exactly what it is. And it's all about these 7 topics that we explore every month, and we host a show around a specific theme. Now, I already went through all of that on the video, so I'm going to stop this right here and bring on the pre-recorded video. But like I said, I'm so happy that you joined us here tonight, and welcome to the show. So hold on and stay tuned. Hold on, is it not showing? party for one, where we talk about solo play or masturbation. Get your spice rack now. There we talk about bedroom adventures, and that's for couples. Or what about rear entry only, please, where we discuss anal sex, a very controversial topic. What about, oops, I didn't mean to, discussing premature ejaculation. And today, my libido went bye-bye, discussing low T and low L. Next month, our topic is going to be pump, 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 pump it out, where we talk about erectile dysfunction, or as we coin it here at the S.W.E.L.L Playroom, limp dick syndrome, LDS. Yeah. We have a wonderful guest tonight. She is the incomparable Miss Marcella Lyles. I've known Marcella now for a short time, but our conversations are always so exciting. They're always lengthy, and they're always so fulfilling. And she always takes me down this rabbit hole where I'm like, holy shit, I never knew that. Marcella has the Skin Hunger Project, and she reigns out of the Aurora, Colorado area. Her area of expertise as an MED has been teaching people how to get in touch with themselves and others. For the past 4 years, she's been doing that. Come join the conversations as she puts you in touch with the things that matter most to you and your mojo. Marcella can be found on Facebook /The Skin Hunger Project, or you can email her at theskinhungerproject@gmail.com. Later, she'll tell you about her free offer, her 30-day course that she's offering to you guys. And in case you're wondering, who is this talking? It's me. I'm your host for today's show, Speaker MC, Marcia Chambers. I'm an online media personality and executive producer of the Speaker MC show, which airs on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And of today's show, the S.W.E.L.L. Happy Half, the art of communication. And this is a monthly private women's affair, which happens every second Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. My mission here is to reduce the world's divorce rate by 50%. So I created S.W.E.L.L. for women because I observed people exchanging DNA without asking the right questions. And then they subject the rest of us to their dysfunctions, traffic jams, kids in disruptive households, that kind of stuff. I'm also the EP, or executive producer, of, as I told you, Speaker MC Show and the S.W.E.L.L Happy Half. Today, we're talking about the libido. The libido went bye-bye, and how you're going to get your mojo back. So, please help me welcome our guest today, Miss Marcella Lyles. Hold on, let me undo and unmute her. Marcella, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
Perfect.
you. I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. You
Can
are
you hear
hilarious.
us?
Yes, I can hear you. You're hilarious. You crack me up.
So I'm so happy that we're talking about this subject matter about libido. There are so many different things that people can take away from that. And I know I gave you a whole host of questions, which I did not even write down, you know.
Right.
Let's first talk about what is the definition of libido so that we can start there.
That's perfect. Because when we use these terms, it's kind of like, well, that's not me. And if people don't know what a libido is, that's the first thing. It's getting in touch with the language. So some people will call libido sex drive. Some people will call it a sexual appetite. Some people will call it your sexual desire. It is your mojo. It's whether or not you are interested in the frequency that you're interested in, the veracity that you're interested in. It's all of these all-encompassing things that make up your sex drive. It's just a fancy name for sex drive. I don't know why we complicate some of this stuff. I don't know why. I don't know.
I know. I
don't know why.
We just had our discussion about sexuality, and girl, whoo-hoo, yes. So
make it more complicated than it needs to be.
I know.
But because there are the medical terms and the denotative terms, and then there's the terms that everybody else uses, it does get that complicated. And right now what I'm looking for is I saw something, and we might get back to it in a minute. But there's this long definition of what is libido. But when I break it all down, it just really becomes sex drive and what turns you on. But we like to complicate it. So if somebody wants the textbook definition, I can definitely make that available. It's coming up now, but really, if we want to just get down to it, it's what
it's sex drive. Yeah.
It's just sex drive.
Yeah, what turns you on? So there are a lot of people, and I've done surveys in the past, and a lot of times people say, I just don't get turned on anymore. I don't feel like I want sex anymore. Is it me? Is something wrong with me? And what I bring to the table with them is that, the medical world has a name for that. They call it a dysfunction, female sexual disorder, FSD. And that there are like 43% of women who suffer from this. But that being said, just so that they know that they're not the only ones out there, and we can always go down another rabbit hole, but not right now. Because I know we love to do that.
Yeah.
But for women who let's talk about the women who just gave birth. A lot of them experience that mojo being gone. What can you tell them about that feeling that they're experiencing?
Well, we're going to back up just a little bit. First of all, sexual activity is it comes from the idea of abundance. It is, we are designed for it. And yet when the body prioritizes, there are far other things that it's going to go to. It's going to go to your heart and to your brain and to the things that are functioning, because your body is a very smart machine. If it doesn't feel like your brain is getting enough blood, if it doesn't feel like your heart is healthy, it may not send blood down to your genitals. It may be like, look, you need to think a little bit more before I send some blood down there. Maybe I need to send some blood up here.
I like how you said that. I really
Some of us have a little bit more, policing. Some of us are like, we don't care if we're thinking or not. We're just going to send it all downstairs. That does happen. But there's that. There's the body ordering, and then there's safety. And then there's care. So here we have a person who just gave birth to another person. Their main concern might be taking care of that person. Making sure that baby is fed. Make sure that baby is sleeping, and making sure that they are doing their job and their maternal instinct to make sure that child is taken care of. Now the father, he's like, hey,
what about me?
I got my rent space back. Wait a minute. This person has been occupying my apartment for like 9 months. I would like to, return the sun leave, and I would like to move back in, And for the woman, that transition is kind of hostile a little bit, because just like you feel like somebody, left your apartment, she just kicked somebody out. So she might not want somebody in her immediate vaginal, vulva, physical space. And depending on what that delivery was like, what that pregnancy was like, what that relationship is now like, she may not see it being safe. Not only has she not prioritized, because she, now things that are taking priority are sleep, her wellness, her food, her body. So now we have that. Then there's the babies, if depending on how we're managing that. And then there's this third person who maybe got her in the situation in the first place.
The culprit.
The culprit. The guilty party. You did this to me. And she may not be feeling amorous when, you know, she's got this other person that won't sleep, that won't stop eating, and you did this. And I'm supposed to give you access to maybe do this again. So for those people, I say really just be gentle. It's not odd that women who have just had babies or who have babies back to back, sexual desire. We can talk a little bit about that, but when we make sex unsafe in general in our society, which we seem to be doing a lot right now, you can directly see that the libido of women, when sex is deemed unsafe, we back away because we know that we're going to be the ones that are ultimately responsible for whatever literally comes out of that act. And so as a social anthropologist, as a sexuality educator, this recent turn that we're taking, even outside of babies, I'm thinking it's going to have that same very similar impact. Whereas 9 months from now, November, we are going to see more divorces. We are going to see some backlash from decisions that have been made in the last 9 months.
Well, that's going on the political spectrum, and we can always delve into that genre. Yeah, but later. So
but that's the safety. What I'm talking about is the safety. Women and the culture of safety. And so if you've just had a baby and you're tired, it might not be safe to have sex with your partner. And I didn't mean to go politically, but I'm just saying the climate of safety is really linked to having a sense of libido for women.
Okay. So then that's going to open up another Pandora's box, because a lot of people tend to think that when you're old, you don't have sex anymore. So you don't have a right to have a libido. But the loss of libido actually affects women 25, 30, 35. It doesn't matter. And they don't have to be in the peri or post or menopausal state, right?
And that's why I wanted to just pause on this idea of safety. It's not about, there are so many things, it's so complex, but it's not just about like, do I like you? Are you going to protect me? Am I financially ready to deal with the outcomes of having sex? Because if women are going to bear the burden of sexual responsibility, then between 25 and 35, when women are now starting careers, they're looking for themselves. Before they used to look for mates. Now they're looking for themselves. Before they used to look for their MRS, now they're looking for their MED. There might be some things that necessarily cause them to not want sex with a partner. And I really want to make that clear. Just because you don't have sex, that you don't have a sexual desire for a partner, does not mean you don't have a libido. You can have all kinds of libido. And you could be bouncing off the walls with your libido.
Okay, good.
Okay,
good.
But you just don't want to share that libido with a person or a partner, especially somebody who doesn't make you feel safe.
Well, is that celibacy? When you don't want to share it with someone, you just want to control it yourself. It's not celibacy?
Celibacy is like, I guess if we're going to go too far, abstaining would be like no masturbation, no nothing. I suppose celibacy could be for self. I suppose that could be what shows up for people. I'm not going to get burdened down on terms right now, but I just consider I personally, as a sexuality educator, because celibacy has such a weight. It goes back to what you're talking about, being frigid, not wanting. Like, it has such a negative term for most people, unless you're tantric, and then it has some positive terms if you're tantric. Right. I just want sex to be just sex, which means if you masturbate, honey, that's sex. It counts. If you and your friends are talking about who had sex this week, and they had sex with their partner one time this week, and you masturbated 6 times, you win. Okay? You win. That's right, Yahtzee, and you win, and it counts, And we need to stop telling people that it doesn't count. It counts. Okay?
Are we like Bill Clinton? Oh, that wasn't sex.
That wasn't sex. We need to stop. It was sex. It was sex. Did you enjoy yourself? Was it pleasurable? Did you come? Did you almost come? Did you discover something about yourself? Did you not come, but you had a good time? It's sex.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And it might be a different category of sex. It might be anal sex. It might be masturbation. It might be penetrative sex. It might be oral sex. And it's still sex.
Still sex. Still sex. So I touched on, I'm sorry, were you finished with that point?
No, yeah. I was finished. And it should count, and it should be celebrated and not discounted. So as much as I would love to call it celibacy, because maybe that is the clinically correct term, I don't want to disburden people with like the unless you have a clear understanding of what sex celibacy is, I don't want to pigeonhole people there. Okay, that's a different conversation. That's another rabbit hole.
Another rabbit hole. Okay.
Down.
So another topic I wanted us to explore before we talk about how do we know when it's gone and how can we get it back. Another populace that they say, well, they shouldn't be having sex. Doesn't sex get better as you get older, especially for women? Isn't it much better in your 50s and your 40s and even in your 60s than when it is in your 20s? Notwithstanding that you know a little bit more moves.
I'm not there yet.
You're not in your 40s?
I'm in my 40s, but you started out with 60s, and I was like, can't go there with you.
I'm not there yet either, but I'm just saying, doesn't it get better with age, like wine?
It can, and it does. For me, it did. I joke that my vagina became a spaceship. My sex was off the charts when I got to 30, okay? When I was in my teens, maybe it was like a little skateboard. I was there just pedaling along by myself. Didn't know what I was doing, right? Then when I got to like my 20s, I got like a bicycle, and I was like, woo, this is fine, right? Got to my mid-20s and driving a car, convertible, awesome. And then we turned the corner to 30, and it said, I am multi-orgasmic. I am like a teenage boy. I am like whatever it is. If it moves, I want it, And I think women have been dealt a really dirty hand because they call this the biological clock. And I would like to say, just for the record, that's some bullshit. Yeah. That has nothing to do with wanting babies. It has something to do with coming into the fullness of our bodies and the ripeness of ourselves. It has nothing to do with babies. I was not trying to have babies. I was trying to have sex.
But you know what, Marcella? It's. I'm very proud and I'm very happy that you were able to be so explorative in your coming to of your having sex. You have women who are out there who have not been that happy with sex. And it's unfortunate, yes. And you have women who have subscribed to the oppression of whether it's religious or cultural or whatever it is, saying that, no, you can't, So they have not experienced the joy. I mean, this is the book, The Joy of Sex, right? We came here to experience the I know it's in there somewhere. To experience the joy that is sex. And it's so unfortunate that so many women are still out there who have not been able to experience that. And I only want to touch on this group who have had mutilation, clitoral mutilation. And, this is 2017. We would think that that's still not going on, but it is still going on. And it's unfortunate, but those women have no kind of experience of what sex is, because I would say that most women, and I'm not saying all women, but most women have clitoral orgasms. Then you have the G-spot orgasm where you have the vaginal penetration, right? And then you have the combo. But a lot of women because of the mutilation, they haven't really been able to experience that aspect of it. So now they think that sex is all dirty. What can you say for women who are, maybe they haven't been mutilated, but they still have not expanded their mindset to know that, hey, you can have an orgasm, you can experience an orgasm, you can masturbate and self-explore. What can you say to those women?
Woo! Wow. I thought we were avoiding rabbit hole.
I was trying.
So first of all, like, there are a lot of orgasms. There's nipple orgasms. It's anal orgasms. Some women are learning to teach themselves to have mental orgasms where they don't have to be touched. The first thing I'm going to say is that anybody who is listening to you is already doing the first thing that I would say. Get into community with other women and other people for whom they have gone ahead. If they do, like you said in your disclaimer, if they shock you, follow her. That's the one you want to follow. Don't avoid her. She's shocking you for a reason. It's like being woken up by being thrown into cold water. Yeah, it's shocking and it's going to make your heart race, but at least you're going to be awake and alive and no longer asleep and dead. Because this is a new great age. Like you said, women in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s are still like, we're not voting them off the island. They get to have like leads and things and products and stuff. And people are like, oh my God, the world didn't disappear. Like, we have to do something. They still want to have sex. What are we doing? And I want to just break up something. The old people that you were talking about are actually rivaling people in their teams specifically for chlamydia, gonorrhea, and all that, because they are doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Well, it's like old people gone wild. So I want to just, because I don't want people thinking that like their grandma is in the home just knitting booty.
Yeah, in the rocking chair, just knitting.
That's your old grandma. That's not this 2017 grandma. This 2017 grandma is a grandma at 50 still doing it at 55. So I just want to go back and break that up a little bit, because that's a lie. People are becoming grandparents younger. They're living longer. They're having better sex and better lives, and we need to stop. The only other thing I can say for those who've been damaged, whether it's genital mutilation, and we do that to boys and we do that to girls, and we do it to people, first of all. Whether it's that, whether it's religious, whether it's cultural, and when I say cultural, I don't just mean American. I mean people of color, specifically American people of color, also have the burden of being sexualized in ways that take away from our sexual freedom. Okay? So the first thing to do is to recognize that to really not to beat yourself up, to stop saying, oh, well, I just don't want to have sex, and avoiding that. But there might be some real reason, and some of them might not be sexual. Some of them might be that you didn't get to call a vulva until the first time that I said it right now. Like there are some people who are going to need to look up the word vulva because I didn't say vagina or I didn't say down there. That's real for people. Right. And we have to allow people the time to adjust. And when I say allow people, I mean really yourself. Like, if you heard a term that is upsetting to you, allow that to be, because that's just part of it. And then take classes like the ones that you offer. I offer a lot of classes. I know a lot of sexuality educators who offer a lot of different classes. We do have some that are very traditional and very like, Ruth, Dr. Ruth, and, not the accent. I can't do the accent, but, the traditional way, right? The traditional way, the very moral way, the very abstinence is best way. And I'm not going to take that from people. If that's your way, then that's your way. Then there's some people who are very fun and funny. And then there's some people who are just downright raunchy. And wherever it is that you are on the spectrum for your ability to navigate this, I say find it. Just explore. And if it's uncomfortable, okay. But is it uncomfortable, or is it a hard no? And sometimes you won't know that. So to answer all of that, just time, patience, listening to S.W.E.L.L, listening to read, things that I talk about. They listen to podcasts, read books, and go gently,
Right. So what can you identify for some of our other non-mutilated demographic who might be experiencing that they lost their mojo? I know a lot of people are on medication, and I know a lot of them are taking antihistamines and opioids and all this kind of stuff, but they just feel they have no energy, they have no drive, they have no sex drive. What can you say to people like that when they've noticed that this is now their new reality? How can they discern and remedy?
Okay, so first, not that what you said isn't true, but I don't want to just leave people like, oh, it's the medical people. Listen, life. Life can drain people, okay? Life, like waking up every day and going to your job, can drain people. So it's not just the people who are on medicine or who aren't eating well. It's anybody who feels that way. So first of all, we are sexual beings, and you and I have talked about the car metaphor, right? Cars are designed to go from one place to the other. The human body is designed for sex. Yes. However, much like the car needs to be parked and you don't drive it all the time, especially without putting gas in it, the human body sometimes just doesn't want sex. It's completely normal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have to stop making it wrong. And we have to stop saying, oh, well, there's something wrong with you. And we've touched on this, where there's different levels of sexuality, but sexual desire for sexual people usually involves somebody else. Masturbation is wrong. So now, especially women, have been taught that you get your orgasms from somebody. Somebody, you have sex with somebody. You give your virginity to somebody. So it's very much an over there kind of an experience. Mm-hmm. So if you get into a fight with your partner, and that's an over there experience, and you won't be over there because you don't like him or her or them, then maybe it's not that you don't have a sex drive. Maybe you just don't like them right now.
That's another rabbit hole.
maybe just the thought of them right now irritates the shit out of you. Yeah. That is not to be confused with a lack of libido. That is just I don't like you right now.
Okay, so let's not talk about those people. Let's talk about the people who are actually having no libido for whatever their reason is. How can you resurrect that libido?
Again, now that's more medical, and you'd have to really. I'm a sexuality educator. There are so many reasons that could be the case. They could be, like we've talked about a little briefly, they could be asexual. That could be their norm. That could be sexual from a sexuality educational place. That could be their orientation. And they've just been, for so long, feeling like they have to have sex because that's what their partner wanted. But really, their resting place is that they have no interest in sex at all. And that's okay. And so those people, you may not resurrect it. The first thing we're going to do is maybe look at safety, look at like the desire. One of the things that one of the articles I've read says is that if you want to have sex with an asexual person, stop trying to have sex with them. So it's counterintuitive when you're talking about resurrecting it, because when you come from a sexual place with somebody who doesn't want to have sex, all you do is make them want to not. It becomes a power thing. You want it from me, I don't want to give it to you, so leave it alone. Wow. For other people, it could be a circulatory issue. If there's no good blood flow, you're not going to get the blood flow in the go-go. You're not going to get it down there. Mm-hmm. So maybe look at your diet. Look at your sleeping patterns. Are you even sleeping? Because if you're not sleeping, if you're not doing well, you're not going to have the energy for sex. That has nothing, again, to default to libido. We do a lot to put things on libido. And for those that really, really have no libido, go get yourself checked, because it could be a variety of things. A few years ago, I had a really low bout of vitamin D. Who knew that vitamin D was so vital? I didn't want to do anything at all. My vitamin D was so low that the doctor was like, how did you get here? He was really concerned about my functioning. A person with that kind of condition may not have any other things going on, but because we don't talk about these kinds of things, they might think it's a low libido. It had nothing to do with my libido so much as my body wasn't getting what I needed. So to answer the question, how do I fix my libido, it's very individual. The things that I can talk about are, you know, what is your libido normally? You know, when we were talking about, you know, getting in touch with it, do you know what your normal homeostasis is for your libido in the first place?
So for those people who've had a normal sexual appetite and a normal sexual encounter, and they're stressed out, or they're pumping up medicines, or they had a sudden bout with diabetes, or unfortunately they may have some kind of cancer related illness. I mean, there's the gamut of, you know, what made it go bye-bye. But and I wouldn't say normal, but, you know, without bringing on those circumstances, for a person that says, you know, we used to have sex 3 or 4 times a week, and now I don't even feel like I want to have sex at all, and it's been like a month, that kind of thing. Like you said, circulatory. So there's certain foods that I know, like red wine and watermelon and a lot of berries. Those are natural things to kind of bring the blood flowing back into the system to create the circulatory and the blood, and woo, now I want. Another thing I know about is masturbation. Even though it might seem counterintuitive, like, you know, I don't want to have sex, why am I going to masturbate? Well, actually, that's what helps.
Because it brings the blood flow down to the genitals and reminds the body that, and that's actually a treatment for erectile dysfunction, as it is for women who are peri and postmenopausal, is to actually masturbate so that the brain and the body recognizes the genitalia as necessary and vital, and will then send the blood flow down there. Another thing is drink water. A lot of people are really just dehydrated. There you go. Drink some water. You need to keep that going. The other thing is that for women, and this is a combination of the two things that I talk about, the Skin Hunger Project, which I do, and the course that I'm doing, is spending time together. Where it's not about sex. So many times have collapsed intimacy with sexual contact, and they have nothing to do with each other. So one of the things that, you know, I'm actually a relationship coach and a sexuality educator, and I own a company called The Loving Well. The Skin Hunger Project actually came out of some of the work that I was doing with The Loving Well, because every time I turned around and I'm coaching clients, she's saying, all he wants to do is have sex with me. He's saying, she won't touch me. And I'm like, well, damn. How do you get these two people to even have a conversation? Well, you have to really then put a buffer, and that buffer is touch, and that buffer is non-sexual contact, which most women foreplay that is non-sexual. I mean, like, not actually touching the genitals. I mean, sitting and having a conversation. I mean, stroking hair. My research shows that we as people, we need about 20 minutes of touch a day as children, as people, just to exist. We need about 30 minutes. We need about 40 minutes to just, you know, get between like existence and like, okay, like maintaining our health. And then when we get to sex, and like I said at the beginning, it's a space of abundance, that takes about an hour. So if you're not having about an hour a day of non-sexual contact that isn't obligatory, that isn't because I have to, then you might not have an idea for sex or a desire for sex. And for those gentlemen who might be looking over somebody else's shoulder, or those who are in homosexual relationships, I do not mean the genie touch. This is what I tell people. This is the genie touch is 1, 2, 3. I touched you 3 times and now I get my wishes. We've talked about this touch. That touch does not actually count. That is a touch of manipulation. It is a touch of like, I'm just trying to get what I want. Like, we're not, this is not a DJ booth.
Hey, they're keeping the end goal in sight.
Yes. Then really, for a lot of women, again, that idea of feeling safe, that idea of feeling protected, that idea of like, if we do engage, I'm going to get what I came here for too, and it's not going to just be about you. It takes about a good hour. And that's because before, like, we're doing all this, well, it used to be women, blah, blah. Yeah, it used to be women could be at home, cook, clean, and not have to go to work all day.
That's right. That's right.
We used to be protected. We used to be kept. We used to be allowed to be women in whatever form it was that we were in that time. Now we have taken on new ideas of womanhood, and that's perfectly okay. As a feminist, I think that's great. And we have to also look at the impact.
We're evolving.
We are evolving, and with that, that means that we may have to do more to get in touch with nature, to get in touch with our downtime, to get in touch with our self-care, to get in touch with just ourselves.
Yes,
absolutely. And when we can do that, then maybe we have some room to give to other people. Which is why masturbation is a really great way to start. Because if you get your nut first, maybe you are a little more giving to other people.
I'm a staunch advocate of masturbation, and it's when I talk about it, I am constantly reminded and constantly, I wouldn't say shocked, but more aware that so many women especially find it abhorrent. Really? You're touching yourself? Seriously?
There are some women who, if their vulva committed a crime and there was a lineup of vulvas, they would not be able to identify their vulva. They would not be able to identify their parts.
Yeah.
And that means that they are not in tune with their parts. And so a lot of sex is also competency and it's, what is it, competency and completion. Like, because you're not good at it, you don't want to do it. And then you get into this cycle. So if you don't know your body and then you don't have an orgasm and then, you have to make your partner feel like they did something because, that's their job. Right? And ladies, you have to stop faking orgasms. You're training your brain. You have to stop it. It is a negative thing. And the first thing that people say, well, Marcella, how come I'm not having orgasms? I'm like, are you faking them? They're like,
exactly.
Yes, that's why you're not having orgasms. Because you're teaching your brain and you're teaching your partner and you're teaching yourself that to deny what feels good, to lie about what doesn't feel good, and to just lay there and take whatever you get when what you get might not be good. And so then you worry, well, I have a low libido. No, you have, I don't want you to touch me. It's not libido. I just don't want you to touch me because I'm not going to have an orgasm.
They're training themselves in the alternate reality sphere.
Yes. It's alternative facts.
Alternative facts, yes.
When you say you had an orgasm and you didn't, that's alternative facts.
Exactly.
And they're going to just go back and be like, okay, well, this worked last time. And you're like, no, it didn't. I just lied. And now you have to sit there and, okay. And now and then we go to blame libido. Libido, right?
Yes, absolutely. I really love that you do the Skin Hunger Project because it really even appeals to someone like me. I'm a hugger. And I always say, you hug 12 times a day, you shave a year off of your life, or you get a year younger or something like that. I don't mean like you're going to die in a year or something like that.
You add a year. You add a
year to your life. Yeah, you add a year to your life. So can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, we have spoken about so much, and we've spoken about the libido, and we've touched on, stroking the hair and not being, just spending quality time together. And we spoke a lot, and I really do appreciate that you fed us. You fed us here today.
Thank you.
So could you let us know, a little bit more about Marcella Lyles and the Hunger Project, how we can connect with you, and if you have that offering that I spoke about earlier.
Sure. Perfect. So, like I said, my name is Marcella Lyles. I am a lot of things. I'm a sexuality educator. I'm a relationship coach. I'm a professional cuddler. I have my hat in a lot of different places, kind of like you. The main business that I have is called the Loving Well, and that's where I do a lot of my coaching and my relationships. And like I said, when I was doing that, the need for a place to address skin hunger showed up. And skin hunger is the absence of safe, consensual, non-sexual touch. It is not touch deprivation. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have that. Yes, honey, you do. If you're not getting touched, at least like you said, we say about 4 times a day, but about 5 minutes apiece, and that's because it takes about that long for the body to really process that you're getting touched. So about 20 minutes, and if you can do it all at once, I mean, for some people, if that sounds like forever, you have skin hunger. If 20 minutes of touch sounds like forever, you probably have some skin hunger. You're probably not sleeping. You're probably highly irritable. You probably, your digestion is changed. There's a lot that I do to get people to realize whether or not they're skin hungry. And I have a website, www.skinhungerproject.com. And I'm also on Facebook under the Skin Hunger Project. We need about 20 minutes, like I said, just for a baseline. About 40 minutes for just to maintain our health. And like you said, about 12 at 5 minutes apiece to thrive and to really grow and to really feel like we matter to people. And so what I do with the Skin Hunger Project is I go around and, like I said, I'm a professional cuddler. I'm also a cuddle party or a facilitator. And I do workshops because I am not a hugger. My biggest fear is that my biggest fear is that people will randomly see me and then they'll randomly hug me and I will have to go to jail because that's not that's my no place. I am a big consent guru though. I love consent. And what the cuddling and the things that I do with touch allow me to do is it allows me to be a vehicle for teaching people about consent. And that's another thing that another rabbit hole that we could go into that stops people from having libido, that stops having people have touch. And it matters. So I don't know, I can't hear you. Or did you mute yourself? Okay, you muted yourself. Yeah. Okay. I was like, what happened? So the Skin Hunger Project, I teach kids, and that's another thing. Like you said, this is for anybody. And my son is a kids coach. He's not here. If he was here, he'd be like, he'd hear his name and he'd come and he'd be like, yes. And he loves this. He loves the work that we do. The last time I did a cuddle party and talked about skin hunger and touch, there was a 12-year-old girl who was present. And we taught her about the art of negotiation. And now imagine what your life would be like if at 12, somebody had taught you that you could negotiate your own space, your own belonging, your own existence. It's a very powerful thing that we teach about, and we use touch to do that. So we teach kids about body autonomy. We teach adults about body autonomy because some adults don't know. So we do a lot of things, and then that overlaps to my sexuality and stuff, but I keep them very separate because it is intentional that we keep sex and sexuality separate from touch and communication only long enough to make sure that we know that they're not the same thing, so that we don't have intimacy collapse with sexuality. So those are my 2 things. And my free offer this month is humongous. It is a $57 value, so y'all need to hop on it. And it is my 5-minute relationship workshop. When I first started doing this work, one of the things that people were like, well, I don't have enough time. Time was of essence. So I said, okay, well, what could you do for 5 minutes a day that would make a difference? And I started giving that away, like a takeaway, like, here, do this for 5 minutes. And what happened was people had results, but they needed more than that. So I've created an online platform where I give people the tools from bottom to top. So building a schedule, building a platform, so that by the time we're in the middle of the workshop, you're practicing something 5 minutes a day, minimum, that's going to change your relationship. So that could be staring at people's face, touching each other. It could be all of those things that are now going to lead up to you having a better libido. So we're going to make sure that offer is available. It's on eventbrite.com, and it's right now, it's the S.W.E.L.L, S-W.E.L.L, relationship workout.eventbrite.com. So it's all www.S.W.E.L.L relationship workout is all one piece, and then .eventbrite.com. And it's only for the people who are in this your group and who you share this with will get to have that that access. And so it's a private thing. So I just want them to share with themselves and sign up. And the orientation starts as soon as you sign up, and the next class starts July 1st. So that is a 30-day class, and it'll go from July 1st to August 1st.
So I'll put that on the website, and
Sure.
I'll put it also in the group.
Perfect. And I might have, because I really wanted it to be super, I have to go look, and I might have to give you a super ninja code, because I was like,
well, that's
because
fine.
I wanted it only to be, because it is a $57 value, and you're
Right.
in the June course. It's
Yes, I sure am.
It's a pretty intense course. You're gonna get it. I'm gonna make sure you get it, and you're gonna get it too. You know, it's not just tips and tricks. It's actually really a platform to transform your life.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today on the S.W.E.L.L Art of Communication, the S.W.E.L.L Happy Hour. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you received a ton of value from Miss Marcella Lyles, because she just gives it all to us. You are fed. You can't say you're hungry. That's right. So until next time, I am the speaker MC, Marcia Chambers. Join me on the S.W.E.L.L Happy Hour, or Happy Half. And our next show will be Wednesday, July 12th, where we're talking about erectile dysfunction. That's going to be a topic and a half. So tune in next time, and thank you for being here. And thank you, Marcella. Thank you so much. And we are going to be out. Until then, happy.